The Education Ministry is looking at closing 4 residential schools, which could affect up to 100 students with complex learning difficulties. Residential special schools provide care for children with high-need behavioural issues who can't fit into a mainstream school. Well, Richard Chalkland works as a social worker with the families of the students. He's with us now, along with Simon Buckland, whose son Adrian went to one of the schools for 2 years. Good morning, gentlemen. Richard, I'd like to start by asking you, please, to explain the types of complex issues which some of these children have who need to go to these special schools.
Yes, good morning. The students which come to our school have learning and behaviour problems. Many of them have faced failure in their local schools because the supports aren't in place. Residential schools provide a place where they can find success, where they can learn the skills to get back on track, and then we can work towards re-inclusion back into their home environments.
So how vital are these special schools? They're given 2 years effectively maximum in the schools to, is it a case of readjusting or being taught the things which they're just not getting in the mainstream?
Yeah, they come for a variety of issues and problems. A lot of it is that the stress, particularly at the particular time, they've come to a bit of a crisis in their lives, and residential schools provide that respite, that opportunity. It's a quieter, more appropriate environment for them, just while we're getting them back on track.
So why the closures? Is this money?
No, I don't think it is money. There is a new initiative from the Ministry of Education to look at providing a wraparound service for these students so that they can work better, more focused around their local homes and local schools. They are funding this by the closure of 1 or up to 4 residential schools. What the Public Service Association is saying is that that's a fairly significant step. We need to be cautious about it. Let's not rush. Let's think about this. Let's do it properly.
Simon, I want to talk to you here because you obviously have this from a first-hand experience of having had a son who used the school. How much did that mean to him and to you as a family?
Yes, good morning. It was a very important time for Adrian, very important time in his development. He went to Hallswell Residential College with not a great network of friends because of his disability, and he couldn't interact with people who were more capable and more able than he was. And then he was put in an environment in which he was on a par with his schoolmates and his colleagues. And as a consequence of that, he built self-confidence and self-esteem and really benefited. It was a learning curve for him. So it's a very, very important part for children with educational difficulties, complex needs of their development.
The alternative is to provide a more inclusive education within the local community. What concerns you about that?
Well, I guess, you know, I wear 2 hats here. I'm a parent of Adrian who had the opportunity to go to Hallswell. I'm also on the board of the School Board of Trustees. And so I'm wearing 2 hats here. And I have to say that although I was really grateful for the opportunity Adrian had, I'm also concerned about the many children who are struggling in our current mainstream environment who don't have that opportunity because there are limited places. So, you know, I'd love for there to be more schools of the nature of Hallswell and Salisbury and so forth. But the reality is we need, and that's our responsibility, to look at all of the children who need educational support. So the Ministry's proposal will allow that to happen. You know, it will look at this wraparound service. It will allow more support for other children, and in that sense it's a good thing. Having said that, I really do believe that a residential component, for the reasons Richard said, is a vital part, and I do believe it will be a big mistake to close all 4 residential colleges. Richard,
you're also slightly concerned about the speed at which this proposal is going to be initiated. Closing the schools am I right in believing by the end of the year?
Yes, the plan is for, they're in a consultation phase at the moment for the next 4 weeks. Then the Ministry will consider those and put a submission through to the Minister. The plan is for decisions to be made with possible closures before the end of the year. We think that's fast. If this is to be a good service, an innovative service moving forward, which is going to benefit more students, let's do it properly. Let's not rush it. considered approach is the best approach.
Simon, what are you going to do from here? You're obviously not going to take it on the chin here. You're going to fight these closures or these proposed closures?
Well, certainly the Board of Trustees at Hallswell will be putting in a submission, as I'm sure all of the other colleges affected by this proposal. And our approach will be is to work with the ministry, is to put in a proposal that will help them formulate what these wraparound services will look like. That's the impression I've taken from a number of meetings with ministry staff. There is no real good detail behind how this service will operate, and I think they're looking for people who are in the system, who have benefited from the system, who know the system, the teachers, the excellent staff who work to support the current students, to help them formulate what the types of services are needed and how they could be structured. So I would really encourage all of the boards to take a working together, a conciliatory approach to make this work for all of the children, because the reality is, at the end of the day, it's not just the children that go to the colleges now, it's the children who need to benefit in the future. We have to get it right now.
OK, thank you very much. That's Simon Buckland, a board chairman at Hallswell School, who also has the experience as a father of an ex-pupil, and Richard Chalkland, social worker working with these children and their families.